Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you surely know that this is my deep dive into an intriguing deck called the Egyptian Tarot by C.C. Zane and the Brotherhood of Light. And if you are new here, let me give you a brief overview of the process that I'm using to explore this deck. First, at the end of the day, before I go to sleep, I pull a card. I shuffle my mass market edition of this beautiful deck, and I pull a daily draw card, and then I pick the matching card in my out-of-print charcoal and white deck and look at them both. And then I ask for a little bit of help. How do I get that help? I use a deck that I'm a little bit more familiar with, the Tarot of the Holy Light by the beautiful Christine Payne-Towler. And I do a basic 3-card spread. Now I pulled 3 cards. One is the energy or the situation. The second card is the challenge. Some people would call it an obstacle, but I prefer challenge because it could be either positive or negative. Positive in the sense that it's something that I'm reaching for or trying to aim for, that kind of challenge, or negative, something that is challenging, something that is an obstacle. And then the third card is the advice or perhaps an outcome. And so I lay them all out, and then I go to sleep, and then I wake up the next day, and I live my day. And at the end of the day, I come back and I look back at the spread and see how those cards reflected the events of the day, if their significances revealed themselves for me during the day, or perhaps they did not. And just because I may not be able to see how that significance or the meaning or what I read into the card, just because I don't see how those things match the day itself, doesn't mean that I think that the reading is wrong or was faulty in any way. It's just that either it was a reading of a level of awareness that is at present below my easy penetration, or perhaps it's a layer that is still in the process of revelation, or perhaps it could be that I just missed something. You know, I always believe the cards are right. The cards are right. It's our interpretation of them that is either lacking or just perhaps even the timing is off. Does that make sense? So that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm here to do. And I'm here to do that because I want to learn more about this deck and to become more used to it, because I bought this deck. I bought the out-of-print version of this deck because it is my birth deck. Yeah, the deck was originally published in 1939, I believe, and I'm not that old. But there was another publishing around 1964, so I'm told, and that's the year of my birth. Yes, I just outed myself. So that's why I wanted to get this deck, and I got a deck off of eBay. But it's out of print. It's not hard to find, but it was pricey. It was pricey for me at the time, and so I want to be careful with it. And so I got myself this mass market color version, which is nice. It's beautiful. And when you see the cards together, you'll notice sometimes there are slight variations. Sometimes there are great differences. So I want to be careful of that deck. Why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because I wanted to tell you why you're about to see 2 cards side by side. So let's move on to the daily draw. Yeah, here the cards are right now. You just saw the 2 cards, right? The 2 5s of wands. And let me show them to you again right there. So you'll notice that the cards are drawn a little bit differently, right? The pentagram that is made of the 5 wands is in a slightly different position on the card. The constellation that is drawn on the cards, this card has slightly fewer stars than this card, right? But basically, those are both the same constellation. Also, we can see the number 5. We can see both Sagittarius and Leo, the symbols for Sagittarius and Leo. And at the bottom, we can see the planet Jupiter on both of the cards. And so, what is this card? The 5 of Wands. The 5 of Wands points to the Sagittarius decanate of Leo and its sub-ruler Jupiter, from which the mutable aspects of fixed fire, vital attributes, enter our world. And this card has been slowly drifting down as I've been talking, hasn't it? So, yeah, that's it. Now let me break that down for you. What did that all mean? Well, Leo and all of the signs have 3 decanates within them. 3 groups of 10 degrees is a decanate. One group of 10 degrees is a decanate. Each one has 3 decanates. And so Leo has the first 10 degrees being Leo, Leo of Leo. The second one being this one, Sagittarius of Leo. The third would be Aries of Leo, at least in one way of arranging the decanates within the signs. And so, there we have it. Now we've got the Sagittarius decanate of Leo, and this planet is Jupiter. So the way we can imagine this is Jupiter radiates information, it radiates energy, radiates attributes through the sign of Sagittarius of Leo into the world and into our lives and into our charts and into our experience. So Jupiter is radiating all this energy through first the decanate of the sign and the house, and then into our lives. And because of that, we've got this mutable aspect of fixed fire. Mutable, Sagittarius is mutable, Leo is fixed. Mutable aspect of fixed fire, fire sign, both of them are fire signs, which also radiate into our lives. And we've also got this constellation here, especially in this card. And this constellation, the energy also flows through this constellation. And if you recall, we've already seen this card in the series. Do you remember which constellation this one is? Well, let me show it to you first, a little bit bigger. Here it is. So that is the constellation of Centaurus. Now, do you remember the mythology? Maybe you already knew the mythology, but the last time that this card showed up, I gave you the background of Centaurus, who this constellation represents. Now, Centaurus, his mom and his dad were not the most common of people, to say the least. Yeah. In fact, they might be just a little bit shady. Centaurus' father, Ixion, was a king who was favored by Zeus, but he fell madly in love with Zeus's wife Hera, and he was put to the test. Yeah? Zeus made this cloud being called Nephele. Nephele means cloud. Nephele, shaped in the shape of Hera, and put Nephele, shaped like Hera, next to the sleeping Ixion. And Ixion wakes up and makes passionate love to Nephele, and Zeus, of course, knows this and is quite perturbed and ties Ixion up to a wheel and throws him up into the sky, a burning wheel, and there is where Ixion is to this very day. And interestingly enough, Nephele, who was made out of a cloud, got to stay a goddess. She is the cloud goddess of hospitality, of generosity, of loyalty, of peace, and, believe it or not, shyness. Well, maybe she was shy when she was around Ixion. I mean, only being 1 day old. But she was also pregnant. She was pregnant. She gave birth to Centaurus. And Centaurus, as he grew, was a little ill-shapen. was a little bit malformed. And so, being embarrassed, he ran off into the mountains, but found that the life of a single bachelor alone in the mountains was not all that wonderful, and he got a little bit randy, and he started mating with the wild mares on the mountain. And apparently the wild mares on the mountain were not all that appreciative of his attention, and yet they still gave birth to the centaurs. So Centaurus is the father of all centaurs. So what does that tell us? Well, maybe it could be telling us that even if we might be embarrassed by who we are or our past, he did not have the bright, shining past of that he might have hoped for. We could still father magical beings, right? He fathered these magical beings, and some of them were pretty wild. But one of them particularly, Chiron, the most famous probably of the centaurs, was a mentor for none other than Jason of the Argonauts. He raised Jason from a child. So, Centaurus gave birth to some pretty cool children, right? Magical beings. So, that's Centaurus. And so maybe we want to carry that bit of history, of mythology into the reading that we're going to be doing for the Five of Wands. What is Five of Wands? Well, we've got Jupiter there, right? Jupiter is expansive. Jupiter is expansive through the mutable sign of Sagittarius of Leo. Sagittarius is mutable and yet is very active, right? So we've got ideas of good fortune through the Five of Wands, which is very different from particularly Golden Dawn decks, right? The Five of Wands we think of, especially in the Rider-Waite, the Waite-Smith deck drawn by Pamela Colman Smith and requested by Edward Arthur Waite. That card we think of as competition, conflict, people fighting fighting with each other. But when I think of the fives in, for example, Terre de Marseille, I think of breakouts and breakthroughs and experimentation and fun. And so we get more of that kind of sense in this Five of Wands. Yeah, good fortune, particularly in business. Reformation, the restructuring of things. We've got the stability, the structure of the four. Now here we can start messing with it. We can start reforming it in the five. Social activity. Not necessarily the banging together of sticks, but social activity that benefits our job, that benefits the work we do in the world. Success and insight into business. There's a lot of business in this card, especially particularly as envisioned by C.C. Zane and the people who wrote a very interesting and very helpful book to me, How to Read Tarot Cards. We get a lot of business meanings or significances to this card. We also have the idea of goodwill for customers and clients. Impulsive actions at work are possible, but we want to have faith in both what we are doing and the people we are doing for, both the clients, I believe, and our superiors. And then there was one interesting thing here, buried in and among the possible significances of this card. One of them was theatrical success. Now, theatricality, it's the play, right? Play. You can think of play in the Five of Wands of Pamela Colman Smith's deck too, right? Playing, play, theater. But here we've also got the idea of theatrical success, which is interesting and may be very interesting for me for today. So that's the significator for me for today. I've got the feelings of fortune in the work that I am doing. My social interactions could benefit what I'm doing as well. I want to have faith in what I'm doing, who I'm doing it for, both the recipients of what I am doing and the ones who are asking me to do. Does that make sense? So as I said, pulled 3 cards, which were my helper cards to help me unpack what the 5 of Wands meant for me today. I did a 3-card draw from the Tarot of the Holy Light. Let me show you those cards right now. I have to tell you, I was a little bit freaked out when I saw these cards pop up. I mean, okay. If you were here with me yesterday, you know that I was pleased and saw significance in all 3 of the cards from the Tarot of the Holy Light being upright. And I was like, yay me! In the back of my mind, I was all, yay me! And then when these cards all came out in reverse, I was like, yay! And even though I know that reversed cards are not bad cards, they're not saying, watch out, you're going to get into big trouble. I mean, even upright cards can be saying, watch out, you're going to get into trouble. But they're not particularly bad cards. It's not saying you're a bad person, you're going to do something bad, you're going to mess up, you're going to screw up. Better to just stay in bed. That's not what the cards are when they're in reverse. They're like, they could be medicine. We could think of them as medicine, like it's time to take your cough syrup or get your injections so that things don't get too bad. We could think of them as indications of where we want to place our intention so that we don't fall into any potholes or any stumble over things which could appear on our path. It's not like, watch out, you're going to mess up, but rather, be aware because you might want to step over this, which might be appearing in your path. Can you sense the difference between that? I know all of that. And yet, when the card shows up in reverse, my little voice at the back of my head is saying, oh, now. But then I know that that oh no is just my older, my tarot beginner mind doing this little freak out flip in the back of my head. So these cards are not bad. And really, they aren't bad. What did you see? You saw the 6 of Cups reversed. You saw the Ace of Discs reversed. And you also saw the High Priestess. Now, I've been waiting for this card for a long time. Really, I've been waiting for this card for a long time, hoping. I want to see that card. And it came up, and it was freaking reversed too. So, now again, that's not a bad thing. It's just, so, let me show you the 6 of Cups upright first. That's a gorgeous card. Let me get a quick picture of this because I'm not in my office. I don't have access to a printer. I can't print out a nice big picture even in black and white for myself to look at as I show you the card. So let me look at the card and then let me show it to you. So what do we have here? We've got the sun shining behind there. And the sun, I think, is significant for this reading. But we've got the sun, we've got the fountain, we've got this lion. Do you see the lion? Do you see the 2, they're not exactly cherubim, they're putti. They're putti. They're the little baby angels that we see in a lot of medieval Renaissance art. The 2 little putti playing with the lion. They've got a red cloak over the lion's eyes and ears, and the lion looks like it's being patient with this kind of attention, this playful on the part of the putti, but the lion, who knows whether the lion feels like this is play or he's being pestered or not necessarily tortured, but you know when kids start tugging at you, at first it could feel like, they're sweet, aren't they sweet? But then after a while you feel like, would you just please stop? Yeah, which end of that spectrum do you think that lion is right now? I think the lion could be at any part of that spectrum. And we've also got the vessels in front with the gold beaming out from the vessels. We got the flowers on the side. It's a beautiful card. It's a beautiful image. And it's a little bit more, it's richer than, for example, the one by, I love Pixie's art. Pamela Coleman Smith's art. I love Pamela Coleman Smith's art. I love working with my Rider-Waite Smith deck and the clones and all of the variations of the Smith-Waite deck. I love all of them. But particularly for the Six of Cups, I think this rendition is more meaningful for me than the two people who look like they might be small people. They don't look like children to me. They look like small people. One handing the other a cup with a flower and their cups. It just doesn't do much for me. This playful activity is much more meaningful for me. Maybe because I'm Leo, I don't know. But it is. So in this card, what do we get? We get that Six of Cups points to the Scorpio decadent of Scorpio. That's supersized Scorpio. The Scorpio decadent of Scorpio and its sub-ruler Mars, from which the fixed aspects of fixed water, vital attributes, enter our world. So we got Scorpio of Scorpio, fixed of fixed water. And this is perhaps the purest form of Scorpio, according to the guidebook. This is the most uplifted, perhaps, aspect of Scorpio. And I'm Scorpio. Scorpio is my ascending sign. And Leo, little lion there, is my sun. So maybe that's another reason why I like this card just a little bit more than the Smith-Waite deck. Six of Cups. And what does this mean for us in reverse? Remember, this is in reverse. So instead of being this playful, bucolic maybe, scene of Putti playing with a lion, we've got something where the lion is starting to get overwhelmed. We've moved into the just stop spectrum of the playful to irritated spectrum. So we've got the idea of the being overwhelmed. The games of the angels of the Putti have started to really bear down on us. We're starting to feel like we could be hurt. And we could have different reactions to that. We might start skulking. Now, the lions can skulk. I know, I'm a lion. Or we could lash out. We could stop, right? Or we could just get me the F out of here. So we're feeling this high demand climate in this card. And in that high demand climate, we could revert to our feral state. We could out, right? Like a cat scared in the night or really, really pissed off by something. We might land a blow also. We might lash out before calculating what the results of our actions are going to be. And because of that, we might feel shame. And we might also start feeling like a victim. Yeah? Have you ever lashed out at something that has been irritating you and then said, well, they made me do it. It's their fault. If they had just stopped. Now, there's that part of the energy as well. But these Putti actually could be our karmic teachers. Yeah? They could be here to give us direct experience of the karmic results of our actions. And maybe feel some of that shame. And maybe modify our instincts and our behavior patterns as a result of that. This could be a teaching, learning experience. And this could also be a training ground of sorts to help us get past some of our knee-jerk reactions to things, to stimuli. Now, this could be the people pushing our buttons, and so It could be that the divine is allowing people to push our buttons so that we can realize our reaction and do something about it. That makes sense, I think, right? So it could be any of that. It could be that feeling of overwhelm. It could be that possibility of lashing out when we feel overwhelmed, or just turning into the skulking beast that we sometimes can turn into. Or it could be a lesson for us to learn, which is interesting. And then we had the Ace of Discs also reversed. And you'll see here, the Ace of Discs is also the same sign, the decadent and the sign are the same. So let me show you this beautiful card upright. Now you'll see at the bottom, we've got Capricorn and Saturn. You see this eye looking through this sphere, right? The divine eye peering through the sun, looking like the disc for the Ace of Discs. And we see the two plants rising on either side. We see 3 stars or star-like flowers at the bottom. This is a beautiful card. I've created a spread based on this card, and I've used it for several weeks, a couple of months. I love the spread. I love this card. And it came up reversed for me today. So the Ace of Discs, let's just talk about the significances of that card. The Ace of Discs points to Capricorn of Capricorn and its sub-ruler Saturn, from which these cardinal aspects of cardinal Earth enter into our world. Now, the vital aspects of the vital aspects of cardinal, the vital attributes of the cardinal. Hello, I can speak English. The cardinal aspect of cardinal Earth vital attributes enter our world. What I'm trying to say is that Saturn is up here in the sky, and it is radiating information, and it's radiating energy, and it's radiating significance, and it's radiating attributes through the Capricorn decadent of Capricorn, through the house of Capricorn into our experience. So we've got the cardinal aspect of cardinal Earth. Capricorn is cardinal. It's pointing forward. I imagine Capricorn is pointing up a rocky hill. But like I said, it's reversed. So instead of being successful, instead of being focused and moving in the direction of what we want, we might have the opportunity to realize that the seed we have planted was a sterile seed, what is not going to grow anything. We may realize that the health that we thought we were moving into is not happening, where our body is getting a little bit sickly. It could be that we are entering an infertile situation. As maybe it's not the seed, maybe it's the ground that is infertile. Maybe it's the base of what we are planting in, the soil is infertile. We may want to distinguish between gold and fool's gold with this card. And as such, we might want to question whether we are perceiving things clearly, or we are perceiving our projections of what we think should be there, or if we are deluding ourselves, just plain old deluding ourselves by what we are seeing. If we're seeing what is and just deluding ourselves. There's a slight difference between self-delusion and projection, right? But both are possible. So we may want to trust in and let our current intention take its course or go with the flow. So what am I trying to say? Okay, my words seem to be in conflict. Do they not? We've got this potential of the seed being infertile, or the ground that we're planting it in being infertile, or are misapprehending what we are looking at for one reason or another. And yet, those things are all acts of will, right? The planting of the seed, the creation of meaning are mostly acts of will. So another thing that we could take from this card is that it's time to let go and let God. Or in other words, we may want to trust and let our current of intention, the powerful force of our intention, carry us forward, trusting that it is going to take us in the direction we want to go, no matter what it looks like we're experiencing, or no matter what it looks like we are entering into. We can trust that our intention is going to carry us through and go with the flow and open to the flow of our experience, rather than doing the work of planting and trying to grow things at this time. Because right now the timing is not fertile, or the seed is not fertile, or the ground is not fertile, or what we think is gold is not gold. Does that make sense? So we got that idea of we may be misapprehending, we may be doing things that are futile, or we may be misunderstood. We may just want to just let go. And at this point, we enter into the High Priestess. Again, reversed. Let me show you the upright version. There is so much in this card. We got the two candles, which remind us of the two pillars of the temple, Boaz and Joachim. We've got, on the chest of the High Priestess, we've got one thing that could be the sun, maybe a star, but I believe it to be the sun, and one being the moon. And you can see that the sun is radiating down energy through perhaps a moon-like shape. You can see that, right? Now, this light seems to be passing through a moon-like object and creating more moons, more moon crescents around it. Can you see that? That is so cool. I think that is so cool. And we see the sun coming, the radiant light coming from her breast, and we also see another sun right here, light coming from different angles and penetrating this, where is that one moon? That one thing that looks like a moon here, right where my fingernail is. And then from that, we've got these crescents. So why is that insignificant? That's significant because what is the moon but reflected light, right? So the light from the universe all strikes the moon, and it reflects and sends patterns to us in doses, in measured portions. Because the sun is full sometimes, the moon is full sometimes, and it's a quarter and it's a crescent. So we're not in the constant full throttle pouring down of all of the energy of the universe. It's reflected in bits, in palatable bits. And this is just a rich card, rich with meaning. We've also got the stars above the head of the High Priestess there, reminding me of the 12 stars of the woman of Babylon, perhaps. Again, lots of meanings. And what is that? What are all those things pointing to? Well, when it is reversed, the High Priestess points to the moon. Well, also when it's upright, the High Priestess points to the moon, from which the vital attributes of the universe are reflected and parsed out and enter our world and enter our experience. We also get the, it's hard to see here. It's not here. But the High Priestess, the Hebrew letter associated with the High Priestess is Bet, which is house. The place that we live, a house. But perhaps also the astral houses, maybe. Now, when I see her, I think of many things. I think of Sophia. I also think of perhaps Eve. Adam of Eve. And so Eve is what? Rather than the seductress or the temptress, why don't we think of Eve as the knower of good and evil, the knower of the binary of this physical universe? the keeper of esoteric knowledge as well. Yeah, she eats of the fruit of knowledge, and she has this knowledge, and she keeps the esoteric knowledge that she is the first to partake of. And then Adam gets a bite later, right? Remember, she can also be, in reverse, our fear of silence, our fear of still emptiness, of void. And a lot of us have this perhaps ancient, perhaps a reptilian fear of emptiness. I don't know where that comes from, but a lot of us experience that. Many of us actually are afraid to, feel unnerved when we close our eyes. And yet, the high priestess in reverse counsels no mind meditation to me. No mind meditation to become more aware of the inward-looking mind of the divine, so that we're more aware of the divine presence in our lives and also the divine attention that is there. She's also our conscience. She is the one that we sometimes don't want to listen to. That one that says, no, you shouldn't do, but I want it, but no, you shouldn't, but I want it. Yeah, our Jiminy Cricket. And yet, she's also here to remember that we should accept the burden of self-awareness, the burden of being aware beings in this universe, and to take full responsibility for ourselves, and to therefore modify our behavior. So we've got this idea of conscience, of accepting the burden of that conscience and the knowledge that we have from our conscience, and to take responsibility for the fullness of self, for our actions in the world, and for the thoughts that we have, and for the creations that we create, and to also, therefore, modify our behavior so that we don't rack up more negative karma, more pain, more bad stuff in our lives. Because a lot of the bad stuff in our lives is because of what we've done first. It's a reaction to our action. So we want to take responsibility for our lives and our present reactions to what we are experiencing here in the physical universe, in our daily lives. So this is all very interesting, yes? We've got this idea at the beginning of success and bounty and maybe theatrical success. And then we've got a whole bunch of warning, right? Yeah? Be careful. You could get set off. Be careful. Also, today might be a learning opportunity, so that I can modify my behavior by giving attention to what is gold and what is not gold, which seeds are actually going to bring forth life and which are infertile, which are sterile. And perhaps also to let go and let my life proceed, to follow the flow of my intention without knee-jerk reacting, and to take responsibility for the things that do happen, and to learn from them, and to listen to the deep voice within, particularly for today, which is interesting. I think that was good advice. I think that was good. Those were good things for me to be aware of for today. Why do I say that? Well, let's see. Today, I didn't have that many classes, but they were split apart. So I had one in the early morning, and I had one late at night, and then nothing in between. Well, I did have a meeting in between. There was a meeting at 1 o'clock, but no classes in between. And the first class in the morning went okay, I think. We made some progress, not as much progress as I had hoped, but we made some progress. We moved forward. And I got some good information. I realized that I had been misinformed, that I had misapprehended some information. So the date of our performance I had misunderstood, and I've got that corrected now. I thought that all students had to do all work longhand, but now I realize that I can let them have access to 1 or 2 computers for the class. But that's good, because the students who are writing the script, yeah, I can have them write on a computer now. The ones who are creating the PowerPoint background for our story that we are going to be presenting, I can let them have a second computer to do that. So that's very helpful. I also got one of the they're called personal assistants, but they're not really personal assistants. We've got 2 different kinds of teaching assistants. There's a teaching assistant for the actual classroom, and then there's a teaching assistant, like a residence assistant, for the students outside of the classroom. And they're called personal assistants here, but English is a foreign language here. So rather than a personal assistant, I would call them resident assistants or something else, advisors perhaps, advising student advisors, something like that. But anyways, so one of those personal assistants came to me and said that one of the students had complained to her that the class was too hard for her. She didn't understand what I was saying. And okay. And she would come, she had been asked if she wanted to change classes. She said no. And the assistant said that, well, go to another class, and if you still feel uncomfortable, that we could talk about changing classes. Okay. I asked who the student was, and it wasn't the student that I thought she was going to say. It was another student that I thought, well, we were getting along pretty well. And so that student came to my class today, and everything seemed fine. I was a little bit more careful, I think, in making sure that she understood, but I wasn't really. Today was one of the days where I was assisting students to do their jobs. I was helping facilitate their doing their creative acts of either writing the script or making the PowerPoint presentations or designing costumes for the presentations. I was there trying to stimulate them or trying to soften some of the critical barriers that they had to some of their creative ideas. So I didn't notice any problems. She seemed very happy throughout the class, and I was checking in on her frequently. So I don't know, but yeah, the class went well. I got some information about I need to write letters to the parents. Letters. They're short little missives that are compiled with other teachers' stuff, and we send them out once a week. I'll be telling the parents how their student is doing and what their student. I'll be telling the parents what their child is doing and how their child is doing in my class as their part of their experience of the camp. So I need to write all of those things, and I got a little bit help with the format, and so basically today was a good day. And yes, maybe I did have a couple of moments where I could have felt overwhelmed a little bit by the children, by the students, tugging at my attention a little bit, rather than focusing on focusing on the task at hand. I might have felt a little bit of the Pooty energy there, maybe, but I didn't feel like I was tugged in such a way that I felt either burdened by it or so distracted by it that I couldn't do what I was there to do. That I couldn't escape it. So I didn't lash. There was no lashing out. There was no lashing of out. There was no. there was no, it went well. I didn't feel like that lion that I was describing, but I did notice that I wanted to feel a little bit that way when the PA, the personal assistant, was telling me about the student. I felt it, and I watched that feeling rather than acting on that feeling, if that makes sense. Yeah, the rest of the day was fine. The students, especially in the second class, it was a short class, but they blew me away. They absolutely blew me away with how active they were, by how much they had done in between classes. The writers in that class, the writers of the story, had spent time outside of class and had written a whole bunch of stuff and brought that in. I was so pleased. It was just a wonderful surprise, and I applauded them heartily, and I wanted to set them up as exemplars for the rest of the class, and so it was a really good experience for me today. And yes, I still want to be assured that I am aware. I did see myself a little bit, especially yesterday, a little bit, starting to feel a little bit weighed down when students were not living up to what I saw them do the previous day, for example. For one day they're just madly creative, and then the next day they're like, eh. And then I started feeling that the burden of their lack of enthusiasm. And that will not help me. My feeling burdened by their lack of enthusiasm is not going to solve anything. And my reacting to that feeling of burdenedness, the potential of my reacting to that burdenedness might be this card. So this might be just a general reminder of, yes, things are going well, but be aware that if things don't seem to be going as well as they seem to be going today, later, that you don't react to that in the way that you could react to it, in the way that you have reacted to that in the past. Because that would be an infertile environment that you are creating, perhaps that Ace of Discs reversed. And so take responsibility for who you are and what you can do, and trust in the divine light that is within all of us and is creatively beaming through all of us. And remember, the High Priestess is the balance to the Magus, right? So the High Priestess is the yin-yang, okay, is the yin to the Magus's yang, the active creativity. Here is the receptive, the depth of creativity. It's the watery creativity, perhaps, the moon, the lunar creativity. Yeah, so maybe that's what this is all about. And maybe that Centaurus, what is his name again? His name is Centaurus, yeah. Maybe that Centaurus thing is part of that, right? That I can, even if I'm feeling a little bit misshaped, I can still create magical beings through that Five of Wands, that the abundance and expansiveness of Jupiter flowing through Sagittarius of Leo. No? Yeah, maybe. I think so. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Tell me. If you are still here, please hit that thumbs up button so that YouTube knows that you enjoyed this, you got something out of it, and others might get something out of it too. Subscribe to the channel and hit the alarm bell if you haven't already. You'll get notifications of when I upload videos. And also comment below. I would really love to hear from you. Oh, also, in the description box below, there are links. You can go to get the color version of the Egyptian Tarot. It's mass market. It's on Amazon. I've got a link. I don't get any money if you use that link. Go ahead and use that link. And also, the Tarot of the Holy Light. I've got a link to Christine Payne-Towler's site, so you can purchase this one. Beautiful, beautiful deck. I highly recommend both of them. They're great ways to expand our understanding of and our ability to read Tyrrell, I believe. And also in the description box below, my email address. If you want a reading from me, send me an email to thehangedmaninthemoon@gmail.com and we can get you a reading. Okay? So thank you, friends. Thank you for being here. Thank you for walking this journey with me. And thank you for being who you are. And friends, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.